A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
Today, the Missouri governor announced the first death in Missouri related to COVID-19.
School buildings will remain closed for the rest of the school year, but school continues.
More schools are opening with the focus on the coronavirus threat.
As the week started to pile on and I watched the governor's address saying that, school would be shut down for the remainder of the school year, I was devastated. I had just been delivering or helping hand out meals that day, and I felt this sense of, I might cry thinking about it. I was so excited to see kids' faces and see families and handing out meals, and then to find out that I kept holding on hope that we would be back in May. I thought, surely we'll be able to do, they've canceled the MAP test, okay, we'll deal with it, but we'll be able to be back in school in May. And so when the news came that we wouldn't, I was devastated.
Time. We must get students back on campus, and we have a plan to move forward proactively into the future to do just that. Our mission drives us, and every decision that we make is in the service of helping ensure that we can achieve that mission for each and every one of our students.
My initial response to being shut down last spring, it was my first year at Osage, and so the biggest struggle I had was, I'm a track and field coach. That's in my blood through and through, my favorite sport, and I just lost that whole season. I just lost all the beginning of the relationships I was building with kids. I got 2 weeks with them and it's done. And so it was a heartbreak as a coach, for sure. Then the educational part as a teacher, I had to learn Canvas, which I had not had to use at all last year.
When it all started in March, we were just kind of learning on the fly of what we needed to do, and going into this school year and this summer, we spent a tremendous amount of time learning how to use Canvas and how to make sure that kids knew what they needed to be working on and having making it universal in all classrooms. Because we have a lot of families that have multiple kids in multiple buildings, and so we wanted it to be easier for families to adapt to if they were online or they're at school.
I actually think the tech department did a great job just saying, hey, here's the platform, here's what we're all gonna do, it's all gonna look like this. Everybody's like that. Preparation, I think, was fantastic. If we did have to go, which now I don't think will happen, but if we did have to go full online, I think everybody's very prepared.
When you look at the fact that we were a school district who was one-to-one from 6th grade up through 12th grade, it kind of pushed us to a place where we had to more fully embrace the direction that we were already headed.
And so we went back to school. We're tracking COVID cases and students quarantined. We're regularly disinfecting all surfaces. We're using water bottles instead of water fountains. And our online learning system, Canvas, has become a focal point between parents, students, and teachers as we learn to navigate these difficult times.
I would just encourage our parents to embrace, to find the positive in the changes that have happened. Of course, we hope to look back someday when the pandemic is behind us, and we hope to be able to see the negative things go away and be thankful for that. But there have been some real positive impacts in the changes that we've made, and I want to encourage our parents to embrace those positives as an opportunity, even an invitation to really be more of a part of your students' education.
One of the biggest things I'm seeing is self-sufficiency. They're starting to recognize their own schedules. They know, oh, I have a doctor's appointment on Monday. I'm going to work on a few assignments before. So you're seeing that level of independence growing. They're being problem solvers and being able to navigate material online as a 10 and 11-year-old, I think, is really remarkable.
I do believe that if we can hold our kids more accountable for their own education, that's succeeding and the next level beyond middle school. These kids have to get online. They have to look up what their assignments are. Is every kid 100% successful? Of course not. But if we can make them responsible for their own education in some ways, that's a great positive outcome thus far.
But with
change being hard. I have so many kids now that would have never taken notes on their iPad before that do now because they had to during school closure. And now they love it. They love the way they can get it organized. They love the way they can color code. They love the way that everything is very accurate when they graph. And I don't think they would have ever made that switch unless they were forced to.
They know how to log into Zoom. They know how to reach out. They can ask us questions through Remind. They can send us messages on Canvas, even if we're not able to be face-to-face.
How to communicate effectively in an email or within a Zoom call, protocols like that. Just any sort of online communication, I just think that that's something we've gotten really good at. I think some challenges that we faced is trying to get the kids on the same page with work. I mean, we've got half of our kids sometimes quarantined in a class and they're trying to join Zooms live to participate, or they're watching the recordings.
Trying to make large-scale plans throughout this whole semester and plan everything out to the day just doesn't work this school year. Like we've made a lot of modifications and recalibrate multiple times every other week, and so like I'm kind of a week-to-week planner this year, which is very unusual for me.
We have to have an alternate document or an alternate assignment for students who are in quarantine or students who you know aren't going to be here for 2 weeks. You need a different set of directions because they're not in class. You might need a different activity because they don't have access to what we have in class. And then sometimes you have to have a different assignment altogether so that they still can master objectives while they're not in your classroom. It's been a big help. Students come in after being gone 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, and they're able to jump right back in with your class.
I've really had to just kind of rethink the entire way that I've been teaching for the past 10 years and come up with new ways to create art without grouping up and without sharing.
Learning this Canvas, I'm learning the different ways to work studio and all these different ways to get this information to kids on the fly sometimes, and I'm having to jump around to different people. Hey, how did you do this? How does this work? This isn't working for me. How do I recalibrate and fix this and get it to kids because it's already supposed to be up and they're asking me. And
you know, when you know, hey, we've got to keep 6 feet apart and we've got to limit the amount of time that they're within that 6 feet, that makes it challenging. So I miss that. I miss seeing students really learn from each other.
So I think not only as a parent as well, because I get tons of I've got 3 kids in the school district. Like I get all those notifications that they've completed assignments, and like how do I get this adjusted so I'm not getting over flooded with things that I don't necessarily have the time to go through with all 3 kids.
We're all asking some big questions. Will education ever be the same again? We're all wondering how this pandemic will change things. But this faculty and staff at School of the Osage are poised to adapt to any changes necessary.
If I could talk to all the parents, I would remind you that we care about your children. We want them to be successful. We want them to leave School of the Osage and be productive, to move on to whatever they're passionate about, whether that's college, military, tech school, apprenticeships, or the job force. And we are doing everything in our power to make sure that they have the skills necessary to move on, whether we're in a pandemic or not. That does not change. We might have changed our delivery system, but we are still preparing students and your children to move on and be successful.
I think that I would just like people to know that we are taking this seriously and that we are being very purposeful in every activity and every procedure to make sure that our students and staff stay healthy, and we are still preserving the fun and normalcy of being in school.
Because of what little is being asked of them on Monday, and because of the increased use of Canvas and the devices, we'll be more prepared. The changes that we've made were coming anyway. No pandemic, many of the things that we're doing were going to happen.
Right, where there's no going back, there's only going forward. And I just know that technology, again, gives our students a chance to have more ownership of their education. And so if you will encourage your students to embrace that and take on that opportunity to have, they're going to see a payoff in their future learning.
I think everyone has to realize that we're all learning through this. There was no playbook for how do you get through a pandemic with in education. Like no one's doing this perfect. No school district is walking through this no problem, this was easy. Like, we're all struggling, every teacher I know has had questions like, how do I do this? How do I reach kids better? So being patient and realizing that the communication's key, we're doing our best. Every day we come here as educators, we're figuring out how to be a better teacher, and we're learning through this as well. This has not been easy for me as a parent with my kids, and even I have questions on their assignments. Well, everyone's learning, so it's as long as we're being patient with each other, I think the school district has done it correctly. I think we've got through this. I mean, I would consider us success stories as this far.